welcome to This Week I'm Learning, the podcast where the hosts are lightly researched and the topics speak their mind. Wait, it's the other way around. This is episode 23, recorded November 14th, 2020. And I'm your host, Brandon Vader. You're not going to get me to say that this time, smartass.
All right, you're not Ron Burgundy this week.
No, I'm not. I saw it last week and went with it, but I'm not saying the line that you just put in there.
Oh, that's adorable.
Come on, Mr. Panda Pants.
Mr. Panda Pants.
No.
He is not a robot. He is a free man.
I am. I have free will, damn it. So yeah, how's everybody's week this week?
I would just like to point out that we're beginning the recording on this 52 minutes late because someone forgot about daylight savings time despite last week's rant.
So, okay, if we used the UTC, it wouldn't be a problem. But since you put it in there in 24-hour time, which I'm actually used to dealing with, but I'm not, because I just subtract 2 from 24-hour time to get the real time.
Yeah, ignore the 1 and subtract 2.
Yeah, exactly. But I didn't realize I had to subtract 4 because you guys are all on a different time zone.
Okay. Moving forward, we will
I've
use
always been on the
UTC.
right one.
But, yes, I just forgot we didn't do introductions. Because everybody episode could be there first. I'm going to take that from Star Citizen.
Good old Jared.
Good old Jared.
Good old
Disco Lando.
So, Disco Lando. Okay. I am your host, Brandon Vader, also known as Dracanis on most
Basically
games.
everything.
certain things.
Basically everything except social media and YouTube. You know, the important things. Down below me, Mr. Stratman, Cody Stratman, also known as Psychonitrous. Down to my bottom right, we have Colton Roper, also known as Seeker4761, which, Cody!
Is how many rocks are on that beach. I don't know. I didn't have
I'm sure
something
there are
ready.
way more than
Oh,
that.
gosh.
That was
Falling
bad.
apart already. That's all right.
That way. Let me get into the box. No? Okay.
Creepy.
Over that direction is Mr. Stiffler, Charlie Stiffler, also known as Mjolnir. Yes.
Thanks, guys.
Should be an interesting week. Because Cody's going to tell us about the sounds of COVID.
And we're demonetized.
I'm assuming it's not just horking a lung.
What's that song, The Sounds of Silence?
That's the song.
Yeah, that
I
is.
know, but let me clarify. I was going to say who did that song?
Simon
like,
and
made it-
Garfunkel.
That's who it is. That's the
Yeah.
new Simon and Garfunkel song, even though they're not together. And I don't know if they're even alive, both of them.
They both are, and they
There
really
you go.
hate each other still. So they
There
will
you go.
never be together.
So this is a perfect collaboration. See, we're bringing two old friends together with the sounds of COVID.
No.
Ah, you guys suck.
Just no.
Okay, Cody, please get us back on the rails.
All right. So, the sounds of COVID. Oh, no, never mind.
No.
Because
No.
it's only been like our 23rd episode, and I still don't know the format. But
Aren't you the one that created the format?
I think it was him, or it was me. I don't know. We all did. It was all of us.
Amalgamation.
Apparently, mankind is going faster than ever before. That's exciting, especially in a year
According to Colt.
that we can't fly an aircraft. So,
Oh, aircrafts are nothing compared to these speeds. So, ooh, fun.
Space.
Possibly, probably, inevitably. And Charlie might be giving us some interesting good news, perhaps, with the longest war in American history might actually be winding down. Interesting.
Fingers crossed.
Very interesting.
I have a guess.
And Brandon, how predictable. Fruit now has arms and a PSA. Yeah. And a PSA about the shrinking cloud.
I know what that one's about. I got one finally. I know what that one's about.
I got the fruit with arms pretty easily.
Yeah, fruit with arms.
I got
no
them
problem.
both. I got them both.
I might have Mjolnir's. I'm not
Very
sure.
large companies are going to be Brandon's topics. Possibly trillion-dollar companies? We don't know.
All right.
Okay, Cody,
please.
sing us a song about the sounds of COVID.
Well, it would go something.
If you start singing, I'm disconnecting.
It would go something like
Sounds of COVID.
if this particular thing was a song, it would go something like this. There.
That's a little ASMR for our listeners, so you're welcome.
So,
ASMR is usually supposed to be a good thing, but
Not
okay, sure.
Not all of it.
yeah, it could be negative too.
There's someone in the world that's into that. I'm just saying.
Oh, God.
The depravity of
Don't
humanity.
shame.
Get on
No,
with it.
just
Get on with it.
go, Cody, go.
Researchers
Sounds of COVID.
at MIT have found a way to detect people's coughs, symptomatic and asymptomatic, 98.5% accuracy.
For
COVID?
predictability,
Like-
specifically for COVID.
For COVID. And actually, it was 100% accuracy with asymptomatic patients. So,
Really?
What?
yep.
How?
So, this is actually one of those things that they were researching something else. They were researching this based off of flu, pneumonia, and even Alzheimer's. So, for instance, making the sound would tell them if basically we're remembering how to make the sound correctly and your vocal cords were, straightened out correctly. So they adapted this to actually coughing with COVID instead. Now, that's really cool because, again, let's bring this over to travel. If you can put this on an app on a phone, this could potentially open up more of the world to people. And that's the exciting point that I'm, finding out of this.
My question would be how would that phone app be able to distinguish from your cough versus someone close to you coughing?
No, that's a good question. And I don't know on that. It can distinguish your gender, your race, where you actually grew up, like regionally, so like your accent.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I
We
hope
cough
everyone...
in accents, huh?
Oh God.
Okay, as a healthcare provider, I have heard so many coughs in my lifetime. And there are certain disease processes like croup and epiglottitis that have a very distinct cough. Absolutely agree. Like
To
seal
your
bark cough,
ear.
I'm thinking croup. Oh yeah, no, totally. But I also know that if this app is designed to observe in a fixed period of time, that you have to have a canned cough. So you have to force someone to cough on cue, which could potentially skew the results. So, oh wow, this is
Unless
this
it's
is
like a
melting my
subconscious
brain,
coughing.
Cody.
Subconsciously.
So this is indistinguishable to the human ear.
coughing. Totally
go.
not
COVID.
planned. Totally not planned.
He's got the Vita.
So this
It's got the
Someone
Rona.
upload that little snippet file to whatever algorithm.
MIT.
That's my contribution. That's my contribution, MIT. You're welcome.
famous scientist right there. He's working on his doctoral thesis now.
See, I personally prefer the Commonwealth Institute of Technology over the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, but that's just me.
I haven't gotten that far in that.
You'd rather sit than mit?
I'd rather be a synth.
Okay, before we give Fallout 4 things
Spoilers.
away. Yeah, spoilers. But, yeah, so it's indistinguishable to the human ear, so you're not going to be able to detect it maybe Beethoven. Wait, was Beethoven deaf? Or was
Beethoven was deaf.
Beethoven was
Okay,
deaf.
so no, he wouldn't either. All right, somebody who works with music. Yeah, there we go.
Mozart,
Don't know much about
Seriali?
old music. There we go. We know that about me now.
This week I learned.
Yep.
That's interesting because they've found some other really cool sound stuff lately that has kind of made me wonder what else like that kind of algorithm could be applied to. I can't remember what college researched it, but you can now, if you have a high enough quality microphone and are able to listen closely to a key being inserted into a door, they are able to replicate that key with enough precision to open that lock.
That makes sense because you would hear it hit like each of the tumblers. Interesting.
Wow.
Acoustics is so cool.
You would need to know a number of variables on that, like what kind of lock, what model, and all that. But yeah, that's cool.
And also, like, some of the stuff, if you read Snowden's book, he was talking about learning, like, it was either NSA or CIA, they were talking about, like, sounds of monitor frequencies and stuff from old CRT monitors and being able to actually get information from that. It's just super weird. Oh.
Wow.
Right. So that was my topic, but I wanted to add one little snippet very quickly. So Colton and I have started a new project. So we are now studying for our CCNA, and it is super
Define
fascinating.
the acronym.
So we're not becoming nurses. We're becoming Cisco certified nurses. No, Cisco certified network associates. So we both have experience in networking back at our previous job and a little bit at my current job. I actually have about 15 years experience, but there's a lot that was kind of missed and not filled in that knowledge. Lots of like,
We figured we should learn it the
gaps.
right way
Yeah.
instead of the, like, hey, go figure it out, and if it works, keep it that way.
and it's been fascinating filling those gaps. There have been so many like, oh, that's so cool moments for me. And
It turns out learning a concept, like, from the beginning and teaching the groundwork is super important to understanding a topic.
instead of the end,
It's
go
a bit of a hot
configure this
take.
router. Configure this router. Like,
How do you log in? Look it up. You'll figure it out.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Or I remember that particular boss going, "What do you mean you don't understand subnetting?" And then
Do you
him
understand
chucking
subnetting?
a book at me. Yeah.
But
I think that was like 2 weeks into that job that I got that book chucked at my head from across the
So
office.
that's hilarious.
I don't miss that job.
Well, it's going to be fun to understand computer networking fully and actually have like a piece of paper that can be applied to certain jobs that they require to, and actually prove the knowledge that we already have, but to understand it on a deeper level. So that's exciting for the two of us, I think, and hopefully by the end of the year, that's kind of the timetable, roughly.
Yep, that's what I'm thinking. Really, the unknown is the tests. So I've got a coworker that actually took it last year, right after they changed it. So he actually studied it with the old material. So it was like the 200-125 when he was studying, but they switched it to the 200-301 test, which is the current one. So,
It's better. It's bigger. I don't know.
Bigger's always better.
Updated. So luckily, just a little note on that, because of COVID, there's no... I looked up in Tucson if there was any like actual physical locations to do the test, because there are about 3 or 4 certified companies that can proctor the test here. But obviously with COVID, that's not going to happen. So it seems like online proctoring is going to be going to be what we're going to have to do if somehow 2020 ends in if 2020 ends at this point.
So I will say with that, watch the software that they have you install for that. I had to take a proctored exam for when I was finishing up my college degree for the, what was it? Like microeconomics or something like that. And I installed the software in a sandbox first and then used Wireshark to see like what kind of shit they were gathering. And it was like trying to reach out onto my network and discover different devices on my network. And it's like, yeah, no.
Well, luckily, I think the Cisco site has like legitimate links on their site. At least I'd hope so. I mean, they claim to be a networking and security networking company. So
remember,
this was directly through my university. So
that's a fair point.
And Colton, this is the company that also installed backdoors into all their routers for the government. So
it's just being nice. Just
hey, the
helping
NSA
this fascist
octopus just wants a hug.
Exactly.
Yeah. Nothing is beyond
usher in fascist
embracing
2021. It's fine.
hug.
Anyway,
Colton, take us to a happier place.
faster
What?
place.
Faster place.
Yeah.
A faster place,
much
yes.
faster.
So, kind of go with my
Zoom,
little
zoom.
spiel here. There have been a lot of fastest things in the 20th and 21st centuries. The fastest land vehicle that's actually been manned was the Thrust SSC with a record speed of 763 miles per hour, taken over 2 runs. I think it was in 1997, so that's the fastest land manned speed record. And for some
Powered
reason,
by the engines from an SR-71.
yeah, look it up. It is it's actually a beautiful machine if you look at it. It's very cool looking. It's basically two jet engines on wheels. That's all it really is, with a poor little dude in between it. Much
Wedged
braver.
in between.
Yeah, much braver than I could ever be. For some reason, I had always thought that was the fastest powered land vehicle. It just, for some reason, that had always been. That just crossed my mind. Turns out the fastest powered land vehicle is actually a sled.
Yep.
Okay.
It's the rocket sled.
Yep. A Stage 4 rocket sled at Holloman Air Force Base achieved a speed of Mach 8.5, or around 6,416 miles per hour in 2003, making it the fastest land vehicle that humans have ever created. That was a true recorded speed. Like there are videos of this thing. Like you don't even know what you're looking at. It's just something happens and then everything behind it, just the dust and the sound is just incredible. Can't even see it. It's so fast.
Was that run the test that they did and the guy experienced 12 Gs and actually like detached his retinas?
No,
not that particular
It wasn't
run.
manned.
Yeah, this was
That
a
was not
non-manned
manned.
vehicle. The
Yeah.
one you're
Okay.
talking about, I think, was like 3,000, something stupid like that, which is still ridiculous. But yeah, so that's kind of interesting. I did not know about that, which is kind of strange. You would think compared to like the SR-71, like it's significantly faster than the SR-71. The fastest speed that was recorded by the SR-71 Blackbird was like 2,100 miles per hour, something like that. So
Yeah,
a sled,
3.13 Mach or something like that.
So a sled, granted it's a jet-powered vehicle versus a rocket-powered vehicle, but it's still interesting how a land vehicle is significantly faster than the fastest jet-powered vehicle in the air.
especially
So,
considering
and
resistance.
Yeah, we're not talking about space either. So
we're not even close to the speeds that humanity has achieved so far.
okay.
And the X-71 has actually beat the SR-71 for manned flight.
Rocket-powered
Fastest
flight.
manned flight.
Yes,
Yeah.
that is a fastest rocket-powered plane. It's more of just really a rocket, but a rocket, instead of going like this, it just goes like this. That's kind of the way I look at the X-71. But
It has
technically,
a little bit of a glide slope.
it
Just so it can
barely
land on skates.
It's just a rocket on its side. It still counts though. It still counts. But as Charlie alluded to, those speeds are bush league compared to what has actually been achieved in space. The space shuttle has actually achieved speeds as high as around 18,000 miles per hour, which obviously significantly faster. The Voyager space probes achieved, I think it was Voyager 1, achieved a speed of around 39,000 miles per hour. So we're huge jumps in speed at this point. But humanity can and actually has gone significantly faster. Kind of not true, but there's actually a myth out there that a Iron Man manhole cover actually achieved a speed of around 125,000 miles per hour during Operation Plum Bomb, which is a nuclear bomb test in like the 60s, 50s. It's never been confirmed. It's kind of a myth. Basically, I think they took a still of it with a camera that achieved 1 frame per millisecond, and it happened to capture this 4-inch 4-inch thick giant manhole cover over the nuclear bomb as it was ejected by this bomb, which scientists screwed up and severely underestimated. Yeah, it's kind of hilarious how much of a mess up this turned out to be. But basically, the myth is that one of the head scientists was like, the rumor got out that they had achieved a huge speed with this object, and some reporter was constantly badgering one of these scientists saying, how fast did that manhole cover go? Which the scientist didn't give a shit about the manhole cover. He cared about the fucking bomb that he had just created. And he just kind of said 6 times faster than exit velocity or something like that. And they did the math, and it ended up being 125,000 miles per hour roughly. Again, never been confirmed. It's all based on a single frame. And they never did find the manhole cover. So there's theories that the manhole cover actually escaped. Yeah, it's 6 times faster. So there's theories that it because it was going so fast, if that was the true speed, it was going too fast to even burn up in the atmosphere. One of those weird things.
I believe it's called yeeting, and it was yeeted into
it's like,
the ether.
Yeah, fuck this shit. I'm done.
One day a Tesla Roadster is gonna run over it.
Probably.
I was thinking, what about, millions and billions of years from now when it gets, captured by another star and like thousands and thousands of years orbiting this other star, and it finally starts getting close enough, and maybe there's intelligence life, and that's the
This is
first
a fucking
sign.
manhole cover. It's a piece of iron that we didn't even try to do that. Oh, you know what? That would be our first contact in some way. Not the fancy gold-plated probe on the Voyager spacecrafts with our beautiful
with
likenesses.
unsolicited nudes. The first unsolicited dick pic. Fantastic.
Fucking humanity, man. But again, this is not a confirmed speed, and actually, humanity recently has gone significantly faster for a man-made object.
Okay.
Have you guys heard of the Parker Solar Probe?
Yes.
No.
It was actually launched in November of 2018, and it actually just recently, I want to say this year, I think. Well, I'll clarify that in a minute, but it actually recently beat the official fastest speed, which was done, I think, by the Juno probe in 2013 or something like that. It was like, it's roughly right now, it's recording speeds of around 230,000 miles per hour.
And accelerating.
And that's the key. When this particular probe reaches full speed in 2025, it will be going around 430,000 miles per hour.
Now all we have to do is move that decimal point and make it per second, and then light speed.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned light speed, because a lot of these speeds are getting so high that they're actually starting to use non-insignificant digits as a percentage of the speed of light. So the 430,000 miles per hour is around 0.064% of the speed of light. That's, as far as I know, that's the first time I've ever really heard like NASA use that type of, measurement. So that's kind of cool. Obviously you can measure anything in the speed of light, but when you go back down to the fucking
0.06
thrust SSC, like it's totally insignificant. But the speeds that we're able to achieve within the last 10 years, we've doubled the fastest speed we've ever been able to achieve with these I would call them beautiful, intricate orbital patterns around Venus and the sun. Like the science and physics behind this is so precise and so cool. And to think in the next 20, 30 years, we might be going at 1% the speed of light. I mean, or 0.1%, which is still not obviously anywhere near the speed of light, but it's getting up there where we're starting to think of long-term travel of some sort, long distance travel. So that's kind of cool. Kind of a cool little fact about where science is in terms of the fastest humanity itself can go. It's not the fastest thing humans have ever really created. If you count like the what's that thing in Switzerland?
CERN.
CERN.
CERN. I mean,
Large
they shot
Collider.
Yeah, the super collider. Jeez, I had a brain fart there. I mean those atoms are going like what 95% the speed of light, but obviously we didn't create the atom, so
Right.
it doesn't really count. But it's kind of cool. So
Hey, I can break the speed of sound sitting right here.
how so? Fair enough.
Large Hadron Collider still hasn't blown up the universe yet either.
I mean, not yet, at least.
Or torn a hole in the
Yeah.
universe.
Remember when that
I
was all the
mean,
rage?
there's still a month and a half of 2020 left. Come on.
I'm gonna say they're building
Hey,
a bigger
we're,
one.
We're
actually,
safe.
That's level
now.
12.
It's
That's
almost
December.
done.
Yeah,
A
they're
small
building
black
bigger
hole
ones,
in
so
Switzerland. It's fine.
Don't worry,
It's fine.
Don't worry, people. Scientists are still trying to kill us all. Don't you worry about it. So yeah, like I said, kind of cool. It's just kind of cool how the factor of the speed has gotten so ridiculous that again we're starting to measure speed in terms of light speed. So kind of cool.
Yeah. That's really cool.
That's what
All
I
right.
learned this week. Charlie,
All right, so here's the question. What is the longest war in American history? And there are two correct answers.
So
Korea.
The war
yeah, I was
on
gonna say
drugs.
Korea because we're
war on
technically
drugs.
involved.
Is my theory's answer for this week. But actual declared war is Afghanistan because we are in a armistice with Korea, so it's technically not a state of war. But because and one of my favorite TV shows from my childhood, MASH, made a 3-year police action, an 11-season series. So I mean that's fantastic. But yeah, Korea was only 3 years technically. So the war on drugs. We might actually be winding down the war on drugs. This has been a long-held position of mine and several of my friends and family members that we need to legalize all drugs and basically bankrupt the cartels and tax the shit out of it, and whatever measurable damage to society drugs do, they pay for themselves. That's my position. But what I'm learning about this week with the differences between decriminalization and legalization, but I need to define some terms first. So first things first, the war on drugs was a term used by the Reagan administration to combat Colombian drug cartels and Mexican drug cartels with their true armed conflicts that are being funded by drugs. Our war on drugs has been a lot more domestic than it has been international. I mean, there's definitely been international. We definitely support Colombia and Venezuela in their conflict with different rebel factions that unfortunately are forced to use drugs as a way of funding their war. But domestically, what the war on drugs really has been about is something a whole lot less wholesome than making sure our kids don't get hooked on drugs. And this kind of goes back to the prohibition times about alcoholism. And so I'm gonna pose this question: what two fundamental groups were passing the prohibition as a talking point? What two political groups were pushing for prohibition?
Republicans.
Nope.
I would say like probably a religious group of some sort.
There was a religious component to it, but it's not the group.
I have no idea. Because I
maybe
was
I'm
going to
So
say
misunderstanding
religious.
it
something.
was
Yeah.
the women's suffrage movement and members of an anti-immigrant coalition that was formerly known as the KKK. Those two organizations were what propelled prohibition into being existence. And really what it came down to is during prohibition time or pre-prohibition times, drinking happened way more and on a daily level for everyone in society than it does right now. More specifically, it happened for men way more. It was not uncommon for men that weren't of a teetotaler style to be drunk at different intervals of the day. You know, the moniker of having whiskey in your office and you know, that kind of era was definitely a thing. And the other component of that is the men would spend much of their free time in the saloons, spending all of their money because they were a one-income household because women were largely not allowed to work or weren't properly compensated for their work. Women's suffrage was pushing for it because they were spending all of their money on booze. They saw it as the evil. But the KKK and largely the anti-immigrant community used it as a way to prevent Catholics from coming to the United States because Catholics
because
were
of
a very large
sacrament.
minority at that point, and they tied it to the Catholics and other religious organizations because they take communion during their ceremony. So they saw the alcohol as the root of that evil. And so preventing the Mexican Catholics and the Irish Catholics and greater European Catholics like the French, at that time at least, from immigrating to the United States, they wanted to push this prohibition. And, you know, for all that it's terrible things that it did, like create modern cartels, the mobsters of the 20s, it actually did its job. It actually did decrease the amount that the American society drank, even after prohibition was lifted. Does anyone know the prohibition on marijuana? What was the motivation behind that?
It was against the Hispanics.
It was against the Hispanics.
I was gonna say it's probably a racist thing.
It very much so.
Nixon.
Nixon was very much against it, but it actually that was the propaganda they used, but it was actually the paper companies because they knew they couldn't make paper cheaper than hemp. And so the paper
I
conglomerates,
never thought about the economic.
because it is such a huge cash crop and it grows so well everywhere that really the paper and logging industry, that was a gigantic monopoly at the time, really was the one pushing against this drug. So I have to put my glasses on because I've got to read my notes. So that's the prohibition section. Now, next part. Do you guys know what schedule means?
Yeah, so it's a degree
Yes.
of illegalization. So, ish.
Yeah, regulation, chance of addiction, chance of abuse, and then the amount of security associated with it. This is where the DEA and the American justice system get this all fucking wrong. Okay? So, Schedule 1, there is currently no accepted medical use. So you'd think that things on this list would just be the worst things on earth. So they have high potential for abuse. The items on this list are heroin, not really arguing that one, LSD, cannabis, ecstasy, and peyote. All four of which are currently being highly studied for their potential uses in PTSD, traumatic brain injury, anxiety, and other mental health issues. They are doing fantastic things with those four drugs for people with post-traumatic stress disorder and traumatic brain injury. Amazing things. And that yet they're still Schedule 1. Cannabis, specifically CBD, has been shown to reduce or lessen the significance of seizure activity, which is huge. Then you have Schedule 2, which there is medical use, but there's a high chance of dependence or abuse. So those things are like Vicodin, cocaine. Yes, it has a medical use. Meth, methadone, Dilaudid, Demerol, OxyContin, fentanyl, Adderall, Ritalin. All of those have a medical use, but they are all very potentially addictive and abusable substances. Cocaine, what's the medical use for cocaine? Anybody?
Making
Isn't it for
I'm trying
one
to-
of the arrhythmias?
Can be, but nosebleeds. It is still used in hospitals to stop epistaxis or unstoppable nosebleeds. Okay?
Really?
Really?
I always thought
I never
Really?
knew that.
TV shows
always thought
that
it would-
cause nosebleeds.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, you'd think, but it's a vasoconstricting medication, so it does it.
Monster.
Then there's Schedule
son of a
3,
bitch.
which is a low potential for abuse. Things like codeine, ketamine, anabolic steroids, and testosterone. Those are all
I thought
Schedule 3.
I thought he was saying Cody.
thought you said Cody. I'm
Yep,
like, Cody's
I
a
was-
Schedule
Codeine.
3. I
Yep.
Codeine.
never get too much Cody.
The female version of codeine. Then you have Schedule 4, which are low potential for addiction. Things that I think that are actually much closer to Schedule 2, like Xanax, Valium, Versed, Ativan, Tramadol. All of those, and 4 of those, Xanax, Valium, Ativan, and Versed. If you become chemically addicted to benzos, they're one of 2 types of withdrawals that can actually kill you. Because there is a receptor in your brain called GABA, and it's the brakes for the entire system. Okay? GABA regulates inhibition. So if you block GABA, then your thresholds go higher and higher, right? If you stimulate GABA, your thresholds go lower and lower. So if someone's constantly lowering their GABA, this is their normal. Normal stimulus is up here, but this is their normal down here. If they take the brakes off, going back up, the seizure threshold came down when the tolerance came down. So now, going back to normal, seizures. Seizure, coma, death. Very dangerous stuff. The other GABA blocker is alcohol. So alcohol and benzos are the 2 withdrawals that can kill you. Tramadol is a semi-narcotic, but it's a low ability for abuse. Apparently, they've never met an addict. And then you have Schedule 5, which apparently has no concern for addiction or abuse, but things like purple drink, Robitussin, Lyrica for neuropathy. Those are both abusable drugs. And so this whole schedule thing has been jumbled up. During the Obama administration, there was a conversation with the FDA about changing the schedule of marijuana from Schedule 1 to Schedule 2 because we've demonstrated that there is some medicinal use for cannabis. Almost half of the United States currently has some sort of medical marijuana law on the books, which leads me into my topic tonight, which is the difference between decriminalization and legalization. So I live in a state that has legalized marijuana. That means that companies or businesses can sell it, it is regulated, and it is taxed.
As long
that
as
is
they
different.
don't bank with the federal government.
Right,
Yeah.
as long as they don't play with the feds because Schedule 1, right? The difference between that and what Oregon just did, which is decriminalization specifically makes possession, use, paraphernalia, and low-level sales a non-criminal offense. So if they catch you doing it, they could stop you. They will confiscate the things, but they will not charge you with a crime. So the net effect of this is going to be reducing prison populations because there's 1.6 million drug arrests every year in the United States. Okay, and that number is specifically based on 2018's number, but for the 10 years preceding it, it was right at 1.6 million. 86% of those
300,
cases.
So we've got 350 million people in the U.S. So 1.6 million a year is this,
That's significant.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's
huge.
the highest per capita prison population in the world.
Right? And
The
the
freest country in the world.
Yeah,
Sorry.
freest. 86% of those drug arrests are for possession only. So these are not the drug cartel people. They're not getting the high-end drug cartel people. They're really not. The war on drugs has really been the war on the user. And
I will
you have,
say, so my aunt and uncle were in the Coast Guard, and I do remember some stories about her going on narcotics busts in the Coast Guard. So
Oh, yeah.
I don't think it's fair to say that it's totally the war on the user, but these laws do affect the user more than they do the distributor. Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. And so 1.6 million drug arrests a year. I would, if you say 1%, so 160,000? No, that's 16,000. 16,000 people. Do you think we successfully arrest 16,000 people that we're doing via drug interdiction raids like Coast Guard or Border Patrol? Because I don't think we're stopping 16,000 people a year and arresting them. And still, 1% is barely anything compared to the 99% of the users. So that's not based on data. That's based on
I don't
hyperbole.
know. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't make
It's based
that
on my
assumption because
opinion,
I
not-
don't know.
But there is de facto decriminalization that is in multiple jurisdictions that are not in states that have decriminalized, because currently Oregon's the only state. But there's other jurisdictions that have done de facto decriminalization. And that's under the title of LEAD, or Law Enforcement Assisted Diversion. So, and I encounter this all the time as a paramedic, encountering officers that are encountering people that are under the influence of drugs and alcohol. It's like, do you want to go to rehab? If you want to go to rehab right now, I will take you there myself, and I will do everything in my power to make you successful in rehab. And their choice at that moment is arrest and jail or rehab. And those systems see a much lower prison population, specifically in the jail in Denver, much lower. And then on top of that, you're actually stopping the problem. You're not just punishing the addiction. You're actually addressing it. You're going to the source of it.
You're not getting rid of the symptoms. You're actually addressing the root of the issue.
You're curing the disease.
You're treating them like people instead of numbers.
Right.
Yeah. Now
So
there was this law here. I want to speak to kind of part of this too. In Alaska, it was SB 91, I think, and basically it got rid of prison sentences for nonviolent crimes, basically. The problem is, and this is only somewhat tied to narcotics use. So, but you have to be very careful with this, because you can't just, SB 91 went way too far, because people were getting their cars stolen and it wasn't considered a violent crime, so they weren't getting arrested for it. So under that type of circumstance, I still support the full sentencing, but for narcotics issues that do not have a component to it that is something else. So if the crime is not layered, if it's not narcotics and, assault, or narcotics and theft, larceny, whatever, then I'm 100% in support of this.
So the other part of decriminalization and reducing the prison population is this disproportionately affects people of color. Several studies, the Pew study that I've read most recently, the diversion programs are more likely to be offered and taken by a white male than any other group by an order of magnitude. And considering we are not an order of magnitude in the majority, that is highly disproportionate. So if you're in a lower income, predominantly colored neighborhood, you are less likely to be offered the services that you actually need rather than going to jail.
Why?
Uh, this is that why question could be in an entire episode on its own. All four of us discussion.
I mean, yeah, that is an important component, though.
Right.
Like, I understand we don't have enough time to get into it, but that's...
Yeah. So, I am very interested to see the next 2 years of Oregon and see what it does. There's going to be some great information that comes out of it. There's going to be some terrible side effects that come out of it. But ultimately, I'm hopeful that we can go towards the road of decriminalization, because if you can reduce the prison population and actually still dedicate the same amount of money to it, then you actually have a chance of rehabilitating the people that offend and reoffend, instead of just throwing them in with a bunch of people that got minor pot possession and then get in a fight in prison and then spend 20 years for a dime bag of pot. So, I'm hopeful.
I think it's... I mean, whatever your personal opinions are on it, I would argue there's nothing wrong with trying a different approach to it. Because, I mean, as you said, this idea of a war on drugs has been around for 40 goddamn years now. So, I'm not saying it's the right approach, but at the very least, it's a different approach. Then, as you said, in the next few years, we will have interesting data that we could use to either continue with this line of thinking, or like, well, that didn't work, we need to try something else. But yeah, it's fascinating. It's interesting. And
I encourage people to stay away from gut reactions to this and to look at whatever data comes out of it. I think, well, here's a gut reaction. I think that this will be a positive aspect, but you know, I'll wait to see the data that actually comes out of it.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting, just on a side note, how actually in Arizona, marijuana possession for recreational use was actually legalized this year.
Yep.
Which I was blown away. I did not think that would happen in this state. So.
Yep. Six states passed new marijuana-related laws that increasing availability, and 3 of them were deep red states, and 3 of them are 2 of them are deep blue states, and then Arizona, which kind of flipped blue this year, but is traditionally a red state.
Yeah, in the next 10 to 15 years, it's definitely going to have to be addressed probably even sooner at this rate. I would say 5 to 10 years, it will have to be addressed at the federal level.
Yep.
So it's very interesting. It's interesting what's going to happen.
Even Thailand has gone to medical marijuana now. And if you know about drug laws in Southeast Asia, that's a huge deal. I mean, Singapore, they've got signs that say that you can be sentenced to death for trafficking drugs. So that's huge. I can't overstate that.
Well, I know for the longest time in California, anyone you'd talk to about marijuana legalization, like when I lived out there, we had just passed medicinal marijuana use, and they were saying that trips basically outside of just the Disneyland area by specifically Asian tourists had decreased because of the prevalence of medical marijuana.
So, it's going to be fascinating regardless.
All right, Brandon, pick up the mood a little bit.
Okay, we're going to talk about fruit with arms. So if you haven't already picked up on it, I'm actually talking about genetically modified fruit. No, not really.
Awesome.
That's what I was thinking it was.
Salad that serves itself.
You can have your meat with your salad.
Salad that has marijuana.
if it starts moving on its own, did it maybe at one point have a mother and father that loved it, and then I actually have to start eating it?
Not talking about the sentience of salad. Let's go.
No, it doesn't have a brain,
Okay.
just arms.
Oh, okay. You're right.
So, Apple released their Apple Silicon-powered MacBook Pro, MacBook Air, and Mac Mini earlier this week. So, I keep referring to it as ARM, but it's not. It is its own RISC platform, or reduced instruction set platform. That they had licensed some stuff from ARM, but it's not actually an ARM chip. It's not an ARM design. It is a Apple design. So they've brought together this powerful system on a chip, and they're calling it the M1 chip. It's a 8-core CPU, 8-core GPU with a neural engine and DRAM on a single chipset. There's over 16 billion transistors, and it uses a 5 nanometer architecture.
Wow.
It's crazy. Now I say 8-core, but it's using ARM's big little architecture that they pioneered, where there's 4 power-hungry performance cores backed up by 4 lightweight high-efficiency cores for better battery life. Apple's currently quoting 3.5 times the performance versus the last generations of MacBooks, and 5 times better graphics than the onboard Intel chipsets. 18 hours of video playback on the Apple Air, and the new Apple Air is completely fanless with this design. With the newest chipset, Apple is also claiming that the webcam included is going to be vastly improved because of the built-in image signal processor in the M1 chip. So better noise reduction, improved auto-white balance, face detection, and better dynamic range. On the Mac Pro, they're quoting the ability to play 8K ProRes footage in DaVinci Resolve with 0 dropped frames.
Wow. Did you hear 17 just dropped? The beta for 17 you can download. Sorry.
Really? For DaVinci Resolve?
Yep.
Ooh, I have to start playing with that. So price is where it gets a little interesting. The new new Mac Mini starts at $699. For an Apple product is
Reasonable.
amazing. That's
Ridiculous.
$200 cheaper than the previous model. The new Air starts at $999. I almost want to pick one of these up because that's
very
pretty-
reasonable.
pretty reasonable.
It's only half the
Now-
price of their phones.
Right? Jesus. The redesigned Mac Pro is going to start at $1299. So that hits the same price point as before. I think the Air is $100 cheaper and the Mini is $200 cheaper than the last generation. Wow. And I'm not an Apple user. I think the only Apple user
Hi,
is right there, Mr. iPhone.
Apple Watch, iPhone, patient care reports on my iPad. Yeah, I'm an Apple user. So what?
Got an
Fight me.
ecosystem.
Why are you hating? And I don't use iTunes.
Because it's Apple Music.
I'm happy for you. I have to use
No, I
it
don't
for
even use
work
that.
in order to deal with iPads a lot of the time.
Really? We have iPads at our work and we don't touch iTunes. It's all through a management platform called SOTI, S-O-T-I.
So we use Jamf.
It's actually really good.
For now, granted, for most of the iPads, I don't have to deal with iTunes. But in order to get them, some of the older ones, into Jamf, I do have to DFU them and upgrade them into, and have to do it through iTunes. So
Gotcha.
I still have to have that bloody computer on my or bloody program on my computer.
Oh,
Well, what excites me about Apple moving to its own silicon chipset is that hopefully this is going to push other hardware manufacturers to seriously look at Qualcomm options, because Windows will run on Qualcomm. Windows will run on ARM. If we're getting this kind of performance from an Apple silicon chipset, where it is a massive improvement over the i7 and i9 powered Mac Pros, why the hell are we not doing this with other chipsets for HP, for Dell, for Lenovo?
Poor Intel right now.
Oh yeah, they are.
Yeah,
they are just.
they just
They're
can't-
on the
can't catch a
floor
break.
and getting kicked in the nuts.
Well, I think.
And
Go ahead.
they kind of deserve it right now. They have gotten so big and bloated and have not been able to adapt to the changes. They grew stagnant. They didn't innovate for quite a few years, and they were just kind of running on old fabs, and that hurt them.
Yep.
They thought that they could pad their bottom line, and they did for quite a few years. But now that ARM is kicking ass, now that AMD is just
AMD's a bully now.
freaking nuts. I mean, same with NVIDIA right now. NVIDIA was on the top of the world with their RTX cards. And now AMD went, oh, hey, yeah, I guess it's time to do a refresh. So here's Big Navi. And Big Navi has kind of got NVIDIA by the cojones at the, enthusiast level. It's going to be crazy, because if you build a computer, the end of this year, the start of next year, you could go full AMD and have better performance than Intel and NVIDIA.
If you can get your hands on any of the components.
At the same price point. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't have a problem right
That is
now
kind of the
because
problem.
Micro Center is just down the street from me. Haha. No shipping
Still,
required.
if Micro Center
Until they shut
has
it down
the
for COVID.
components.
Yeah.
They have
A lot of these components have been sold out.
every one of the Ryzen chips are currently available. I was in there
Okay,
yesterday.
what about the
50s.
graphics cards?
The 3090s and
The
there
30 series
there
and
was
the new
a
Big
full
Navi.
shelf of graphics cards. Full shelf.
I think it's the overall system is lacking, but
it's
there
the
are
market.
obviously hot spots, and
Yeah.
Denver is going to be one. It's a big population center.
All right. So
have
what
to take a trip
about
up there
this
next
shrinking cloud? Like, what is
Yeah, so there's some cloud shrinkage.
Hate it when that
Google
happens.
Photo.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
Isn't it just embarrassing when you get out of the lake and the cloud shrinks just that little bit? Yeah. Google Photo is finally ending its unlimited free storage starting June 1st, 2021.
That's got
So
It's gonna hurt a
that
lot.
is going to hurt. The kind of upside to that is your current uploads are not going to count towards the new data cap.
So upload
So starting
everything.
June 1st, 2021. Yeah.
Say
If you
every
have
photo
a phone
you have.
that you are not uploading to Google Photos, do it. Enable it now. Upload old photos, like anything you can. Because starting June 1st, 2021, you are going to get 15 gigs of free storage. That's it. So any file you upload starting that day will start chipping away at that 15 gig count.
So this means it's going to integrate with like Google Docs and stuff. So if you have Docs on there, that's going to take away an email. Are all those going to be combined?
I couldn't tell. I think because you access photos through a separate app interface, that 15 gigs is going to be siloed.
Well,
No,
here's the
'cause-
against that.
So I don't currently use the unlimited. I use the high quality, keep the original format, and it reminds me every time I'm in my Google Drive that I'm full. So I'm thinking it's all Google storage is one
And going with
pile.
what they're trying to do, they're trying to push people onto their fucking Google One subscription
Google
service. That's what they're
Yep.
trying to do. So I'm thinking it does go with Charlie. I think it does apply the docs and all the other Google stuff. It's all going to be a single cloud for all of your files.
I try to be positive,
might.
but when it comes to these situations when they're trying to push their software as a service, I always look at it in the most negative possible way.
It's a evil tech giant.
Yeah.
I probably a good way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, my one big subscription right now is Microsoft 365. I do the family plan that's $100 a year for 5 accounts and 1 terabyte of space, and it lets you install the apps directly on your computers, and each user has, I think, 5 computers that they can install it on, and each user has their own terabyte that they can use of space.
I got a
The
bone
one
to
I got
pick.
recently is I actually got YouTube Premium recently. They finally got me, and it's awesome.
Really?
It is awesome.
But
It's
it's
totally worth
$60
it.
a month.
I have.
It's
It's
for
it's,
the amount of YouTube videos I watch,
Oh,
like
yeah.
the amount of time I save, and the creators get more money.
Just
like
use Opera. If you use
Pi-hole.
Opera, so what it does is it has like 10 seconds before each video where it has a white screen and you see the little thing rotate around and you don't see the ads.
But
Okay.
you still have to wait. That's a 10 seconds in the middle of your.
Force whatever.
But
So,
again,
Cody,
you add
I don't
that
use
up.
iTunes. I use YouTube for all of my music. All of it is on YouTube. I don't use Spotify. I don't use iTunes. I don't use any other music
I guess I
software.
gotta,
Like
I
I said,
gotta try it for a month.
the
before
reason,
I-
like I said, the reason I got it was when I found out that creators make more money
Yeah.
from YouTube Premium than ad revenue, and I'm like,
And every couple
want to
months
see
I get a
that.
perk. Yeah, every couple months I get a perk. I got
a free
couple free
Nest.
Google Home things. I just got a Stadia controller and Stadia for a month for free. That's $100 of stuff for free just because I've been on YouTube Premium for
how much
the
is
last 3
YouTube
months.
Premium?
16.
reeling in, Charlie.
60 or
How
16?
much?
6.
Oh, okay.
Oh, 16?
16.
Okay, I'll try it out.
And
It's not
and
bad.
I got on it when I got 3 months free. So if you take those 3 months into account, I'm still paying like 14.
I'll have to cancel some other subscription.
Oh yeah.
That's the rule. Or
Yeah.
2. Cancel 2.
Fair enough.
Get 1.
Yeah, I don't.
But I have
I
a
don't
bone.
pay for Netflix
so-
or anything else.
I have a bone to pick with Microsoft, real quick. They canceled their home use program, and so a home use
Yeah.
program software that I bought went away. My account is no longer has access to the what was it, Office 2016 that I got. Now I got it for $10 because of the home use program through work, but because our work
Yep.
does not use 365, I'm not eligible for the 365 one. So even
What does your work use then?
we use Office 2019, 2016, and 2019. And they changed
Like
the
you
install.
guys actually pay for the license?
Yep. Yeah, they changed the install
shit.
for 2019, so it's this really weird way of installing it now. It's not an executable install or an MSI.
Gotcha. Yeah, my work uses Office 365, and I could probably cancel my family plan
You could use the
and
home
just use my work.
Well,
Yeah.
you don't even have to use the you don't have to like grab it from work. So through work you should be able to sign up, and it's not free, but it is like 30% off of the subscription. So might be worth it to you.
LibreOffice.
Yeah, I
That's the
I like
feature.
having the terabyte
Yeah,
of space.
that used to use
So-
open.
I do have one quick thing to jump back to the
Okay.
PSA. Google One plans will start at $2 per month for 100 gigs. Google has calculated that the average user, if they continue to upload the way they have, will take close to 3 years to fill the 15 gigs of storage space with photo
Are they
upload.
not accounting for the inevitable like 4K average that's going to happen, and then 8K? And
I mean,
The
here's the
average
thing, though.
user
The
or the
free...
median user?
well, let me clarify. When 4K like photos are as prevalent as
it won't save them
HD.
as 4K. That's the thing. Right now, when you use the free storage,
Yeah,
it
that's true.
down-reses them.
Yeah, it does.
So even if you
unless
pay
So,
for it, they're
if
not
you
giving you the
continue-
full quality.
If you
they're
pay
limited-
for
Oh,
it-
if you pay for it and you select original quality, yeah, you can upload 50 gig RAWs or 50 meg RAWs.
Jesus.
But you're
Yeah,
going to
not
fill
50
that
gigs, sorry.
100 gigs in less than 3 years.
Way less.
And this
So there
is
must be an unlimited tier or something, right?
Maybe.
I, again, lightly researched. This
Fair
was an
enough.
add-on topic that as I was researching the first one, it came up in a little blurb on the bottom, and I'm like, wait, Google Photos is ending?
yeah, that sucks.
It's kind of my primary way to back up my...
Taking
My phone
away
camera.
little bits here and there.
So this is why
Gotta
I
chip
would
away, get that
Their
money.
company.
encourage
They gotta
people
grow.
to. Hard drives are fairly cheap right now, so get hard drives.
Yeah,
You
be
know?
your own cloud.
NAS,
14,
NAS is the
14
shit.
terabyte externals constantly sell for like 350.
Yeah,
You can shuck those babies, put them into a standard desktop, and you've got 14 terabytes. Get two, then you can
Yep.
mirror them and have 14 terabytes of on-site mirrored storage.
and store them in
But-
different locations in your house or at your friend's house. Give one to your friend. There you go.
Yeah.
Figure out how valuable
Create
your
your
data
own
is.
little cloud with Tonadu.
All right, Brandon, take us home.
Okay. Well, I am home. We're all home. But
2020 after all.
it is 2020 after all. So, yeah, thanks everyone for joining us. I have been Brandon Vader, also known as Dracanis. You can find me at thetechpirate.net, at YouTube as The Tech Pirate, and at Twitter as The Tech Pirate. Cody, where can we find you?
In Koh Samui.
No.
in your
No.
heart.
You're in
Not yet.
Soldotna. Sorry. I'm putting the kibosh on that right now.
Maybe after
One day
CCNA.
you may
Yeah.
get to be.
All right. So I am Cody Stratman, Psychonitrous, Zito Valder on Blizzard. If for some reason you want to play Overwatch, let's see. Yeah, there you go. That's where you can find me.
Okay. Colton!
I am Colton Roper. I am a contributor to the techpirate.net. I recently posted a article or a review of the FineTie Bluetooth tablet keyboard, and I was pleasantly surprised with it. You can also find me on Twitch, Facebook, Gaming, Twitter, and YouTube under the name Seeker4761, and I'm sure there's other places as well, but that's the stuff I care about right now. So, Charlie, where can we find you?
You can find me here, hopefully every week, and YouTube and Twitch under Milnor, MIJOLNOIR. And eventually I will get that article up for the Tech Pirate. So, all right, Brandon.
Well, thanks for joining us on this episode of This Week I'm Learning. You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts, as well as on YouTube as This Week I'm Learning. For you social media peeps, you can find us out there on Twitter at ThisTwil. If you would like to contact us and send an email, you can always do that to twil@thetechpirate.net. And I'm going to read it, because even though I'm not Ron Burgundy, I do like to have fun. Don't forget to swear fealty to our Lord and Savior, Chewbacca. See you all next week.
ASMR.
Did you know that
Oh, God.
the sound of that is actually made by a Great Pyrenees?
Yes.
What?
Really?
Yep. Chewbacca was a Great Pyrenees.
Big ass
That's
poodle dog.
kinda
Not
cool.
poodle, but dog.